88.9 WLRY, live online, WLRY.org. Got a very special guest with us, Mark Lee from Third Day. And Mark, welcome.
How are you doing? I'm so glad to be on your show here.
Yeah, and it was a nice surprise getting an email about a book. Now, I expect to hear about music from you, but a book, that's something new. Is this your first book?
This actually, yeah, it is my first book. It's been a lifelong goal and dream of mine. My mom was actually a librarian at a local school when I was growing up, and so I've always done music, but books has also been a big passion of mine since I was a kid, and so I finally, over the last couple of years, dedicated the time and set it aside to sit down and actually write one myself. And so I'm really pleased to have that done and coming out later this year.
Was that made possible by a little break in the busy Third Day schedule?
You know what? It actually was. I want to say about 3 years ago, we had a fall season that usually in the fall is really busy for us, but just the way the album and the touring cycle all panned out, I had a few weeks off, and it was right after my kids had started back at school, and I'm like, well, I've got this time, and if I'm going to do this, this is probably the time to do it. And so I just started. I would take my kids to school, and I would just come home and sit down and start writing this thing. And I didn't really know what I was doing, but I was like, I'm just going to keep doing this until I have like a book-length something, and then I know I can go back and edit it. And so that's what I ended up doing. And about 3 years later, here we are, and it's about to come out.
Now, have you taken notes throughout your life? I know my memory's kind of sketchy about some things, or did it just like all come back to you?
Well, I have, and people kind of give me a hard time about it. For whatever reason, I have a really good memory. I can't remember what I ate last night for dinner, but I can remember, things that happened when I was a little kid, and just important events that kind of happened in my life. So that wasn't really that hard. It was a lot of remembering the details and then connecting everything together. That was the hard part. But I didn't have that difficult a time just to think back to, things that happened when I was a kid and a teenager and write all that down.
Again, our special guest, Mark Lee with Third Day. The book is Hurt Road. And when does it come out, Mark?
The book comes out September 5th, so just a few weeks here. Okay,
and you're already taking pre-orders for it, right?
That's right. You can go to either Barnes & Noble's website, or you can go to Amazon, or also I know ChristianBook.com has books available there for pre-order. You can just go on there and order it, and I think they'll just deliver it right to your house. So you can't ask for more convenient than that.
Now, when reading the book, is it going to be any Third Day history? I get from just reading the first chapter and a little synopsis of the book that it's not so much the Third Day story, but kind of the story of your life and things that happened that shaped you.
Right. Now, if yes, you are correct. If you tell the story of my life, though, you can't tell that story without having Third Day be a huge part of it. And so, and the sample chapter that I think you've read, it talks about, and I'm not giving anything away because this happens at the very, intro of the book. But when I was 14 years old, I got hit by a truck while I was selling donuts for my church youth group. I mean, that right there in itself is like, whoa, okay. So I just thought that if I'm going to tell my story, I might as well start with the action when I got hit by the truck. And so I start with that, and then I kind of go back from there and talk about my childhood and the events that led to me becoming a Christian and that being a big part of my life. And then I go back and talk about the truck, getting hit by the truck again, just briefly. And then actually right after that, I found out that my father had cancer, and then he died of cancer when I was a junior in high school. And pretty much in the aftermath of that, always have been a musician, always played. I played violin when I was a kid. I started playing guitar when I was in high school. Right after my father died, that was when I sort of used music as a way to get through this hard time in my life, and that just kind of morphed right into, I met Mac Powell. We both went to the same high school, and we started making music together, and maybe a year or two after that, we had started what became Third Day. And so it's all really just wrapped up in together, my story and my faith journey, as well as the early days of getting Third Day together. So there's a lot of great stories in there, a lot of anecdotes, a lot of Mac and myself as high school kids meeting and, things like that. There's a lot of fun stories in there.
Now, the title of the book, Hurt Road, is that actually a location?
It is. It's funny because I actually just spoke at a church in my hometown about a week ago, and the church is right by Hurt Road. So when if I go, to Ohio and speak, they're going to go, okay, Hurt Road, we get it. It's, it's this sort of metaphor for the pain of the journey that we're all on. And I'm like, yeah, that's true. But it also is literally a place. It's a road right near where I grew up, and that's the name of one of the roads. I was in an intersection, and one of the roads where I got hit by the truck was Hurt Road. And at first I thought, man, that's a great song title. Maybe a musician, that's the first place I go.
Yeah, right.
I actually tried writing a song, and it just didn't really work as a song, but I kind of held on to that title. And a few years ago when I started working on what became this book, I just thought, Hurt Road, that just makes so much sense for this as the title and just kind of the idea, the big idea for the book.
Are you like, this proves God has a sense of humor? I got hurt on Hurt Road, right?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, I got hurt on Hurt Road. And there's so many crazy coincidences like that. And I'm selling donuts, which, by the way, if you never read the book, anybody listening to this, the one piece of advice, don't sell donuts on the side of the road. If you get that from me, from this, then I've succeeded in my mission. But so I'm selling donuts, and the guy that was driving the truck that hit me, I kid you not, his name was Mr. Coffee. So I'm on Hurt Road. I'm selling donuts, and I get hit by a truck driven by a guy named Mr. Coffee. If that doesn't prove that God has a sense of humor, I don't know what does.
You just can't make that stuff up.
That's right.
Again, the book is called Hurt Road. It comes out in September, and you can pre-order that starting now. So when you wrote this, Mark, did you have a ghostwriter? Did you have any help with it?
No, it was all me. I when I first had the idea that I wanted to write a book, I told my manager, Third Day's manager, about it. He said, "Oh yeah, let me make a couple calls. We can get a guy out and they can do an interview, and then they can write a book." And I said, "You know what? With this being my story, I just feel like I need to be the one that tells it." And so, even though it involved me, I've written blogs and things like that. I've been a writer for a long time, but as far as writing a book length work, I hadn't done that before. But I just felt like for it to be true, or to feel true, and for it to be my story, I needed to be the one to tell it, even if that involved me figuring out how to write a book in the process. And so I sat down and took a couple of months and wrote it, and it was horrible. And then I had some great friends, mentors, kind of step in and help with the editing process, just give me some ideas like, okay, you need to maybe work on this section or whatever. And through that process, it hopefully got a lot better and more readable.
Now, is this the first book by any member of Third Day?
It is. I think, if I think about it, I think we have all contributed to different book projects in one way or the other. I know Mac was a part of a book that was different musicians giving their testimony, and it was a really interesting book that came out a few years ago. And I know David contributed a piece to, it was a tribute to A.W. Tozer, and David was part of that. And it's been a few years back, I was a part of a book that was, it was advice to graduates, and there was a lot of essays, and I was a part of that. And in fact, I've written an essay that's going to be in another book that's coming out this summer that's a tribute to Rich Mullins.
Wow. Okay.
We're coming up on 20 years of his passing, which is crazy to me. Yeah. I mean, it feels like it just happened, in a way, but here we are 20 years later, and a publisher had approached me to contribute to this tribute book to him, and so I'm excited to be a part of that as well. So we've all written some things, but this is the first book-length piece that any of us have done, and so, hey, who knows? Maybe this will be the beginning of a new era of Third Day as authors and musicians. That'd be kind of fun.
Yeah, there you go. Well, I know fans of Third Day were pleased to hear a new single because, I mean, there was some talk, well, we haven't heard from Third Day. Are they breaking up? What's going on? Then you guys come out with the single Revival. So I take it everything's good with the band.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. We had a chance. It was actually about a year ago, almost to the day. We went into the studio in Muscle Shoals, Alabama. There's a great studio there called Fame Studios they actually did a documentary about it a couple of years ago.
Yes.
There's just so much history in this place, and we actually watched that documentary and we were like, man, we gotta go to Muscle Shoals and record. So we went there and just brought the band in and set up in a circle and hit record. We started making music, and the result is what you hear on that Revival single. And we've got that, and we haven't made an official announcement yet, but we have some more new music on the horizon. It's coming, but I can't give any more details at this point in time. But be ready. We've got a whole bunch of new Third Day music coming out soon.
All right, good. So maybe a new album sometime in the future and another tour?
Yeah, absolutely. We got a new album that'll be here at some point. Like I said, I can't announce it yet. Got to keep it hush-hush for now, but yeah, we have some new music coming out, and yeah, we'll take the touring. We'll cross that bridge kind of when we get to it. We this year actually marks 25 years of Third Day being a band, and so
cool.
We talked about it for a while. You know, we could commemorate the occasion by doing a huge tour and a bunch of things like that. But we've come off a real busy season for the last really going back for maybe the last 5 years. And we just felt like it'd be a good time for us to all just kind of take a few months here and catch our breath, and then we'll kind of regroup and figure out what's going on later this year. So
a little time of refreshing.
That's right. There's nothing wrong with that.
Absolutely. Again, Mark Lee with Third Day. The book is Hurt Road, comes out in September. You can pre-order it now at Amazon and various other locations. Mark, always a pleasure talking to you. Thanks for joining us today.
Absolutely. Thanks so much for having me. I totally enjoyed this.